The tires screeched, not in front of me, behind. Then the yelling started.
You want to walk? Go ahead, princess. Walk.
The car door slammed. Red taillights blurred through the rain as my boyfriend of 3 years peeled off down the highway, disappearing into the storm like I'd never existed. Just a lump of wet clothes, stranded on the side of a road no one uses unless they're running from something. Or someone. I was both. My bag was still in the car, my charger, my coat, everything I owned, everything I couldn't afford to lose, gone with one shout and a fist punched into the steering wheel. I stood there, soaked, shaking, mascara bleeding down my cheeks. It wasn't just the cold, it was the rage, the kind that sits behind your teeth and dares you to scream. But I didn't scream. I walked, mile after mile, darkness dripping from the trees, thunder somewhere distant but pacing closer, like a predator that didn't want to rush its kill. That's when the headlights came. A single car, no music, no rush. It slowed. Window rolled down, and a voice, low, even calm, slipped through the crack of wet glass.
You look lost.
The car was silent for miles. Not the awkward kind, the haunted kind. I could hear the wipers squeaking against the glass, the soft hum of the engine, and the occasional groan of the old suspension every time we hit a bump. But not him. Not a word. He looked like a man who didn't need to talk, or maybe one who forgot how. He drove with both hands on the wheel. Military posture. I noticed that first. That, and the way his eyes never lingered too long on me, like he trained himself not to stare. Like restraint was second nature.
I don't even know your name.
I finally said. His hands didn't flinch. Mike?
That's it? No last name?
Just Mike.
I waited. Nothing.
I'm Haley,
I said.
in case you missed the screaming part.
I heard it.
He turned the wheel slowly, easing the car onto a narrow side road surrounded by pine trees that loomed like they were eavesdropping.
Where are we going?
I asked.
You need somewhere dry. Safe. There's a place up here.
I hesitated.
Like a cabin in the woods kind of place?
He gave me the briefest glance.
No axe murderers. I promise.
I snorted despite myself.
That's exactly what an axe murderer would say.
Fair.
Another silence settled between us. But this one felt different, like it was wrapping around something too heavy to lift yet. Then he said, barely audible,
You look like him.
I turned sharply.
Like who?
Your father.
My heart stopped.
You knew him?
Mike.
Nodded once.
I served with him. Kandahar, Iki Benalta.
I didn't breathe.
My dad died in 2007.
I know.
A beat,
You were there?
another nod.
I was the one who found him.
I felt my fingers curling into fists on my lap.
Why didn't you say that before?
Would you have believed me?
I don't even know you.
I know, but he wanted you to.
What does that mean?
He reached into his jacket pocket, slowly, like reaching into the past might startle it, and pulled out a small sealed envelope, a little crumpled, corners softened with time. My name was on it, not typed, not printed, just written in a hand I hadn't seen since I was 7.
Where did you get this?
He gave it to me. The night before,
Mike trailed off.
he knew, maybe not exactly, but something in him shifted, like he was writing a last page.
I stared at the envelope.
Why didn't you give it to me before?
You were 10, then 16, then... I didn't know how. I didn't want to make it worse.
I took it from him. My hands shook.
I think you made it worse by waiting.
I know. I opened it slowly. The seal cracked like it had been waiting too long. The paper inside was thin, creased, stained with age. Haley, if you're reading this, it means I didn't come home. I'm sorry for every birthday I missed, every story I didn't get to hear, every night I wasn't there to chase monsters from under your bed. You're going to be angry. That's okay. Be angry, be loud. Don't ever shrink yourself just because the world doesn't know what to do with your fire. I've asked Mike to watch over you. He's stubborn, so you'll probably have to yell at him a few times. But he's good. Better than he knows. And he owes me. I hope you grow up to be nothing like me, and everything like the parts of me that only woke up when I talked about you. Love always, Dad. I couldn't stop the tears. They weren't loud, just steady, like a faucet that someone forgot to tighten. Mike didn't say anything.
Did you read it?
I asked. He hesitated.
Once, years ago, I shouldn't have. I was drunk and lonely.
I folded the letter carefully, placing it back in the envelope.
I used to think he just disappeared, like he stopped existing the day he left.
He never stopped thinking about you.
Then why didn't he come back?
Mike's jaw clenched.
He walked into something meant for me. Stepped ahead. I think he knew.
Why?
Because I had no one waiting for me. He had you.
That hit like a gut punch. I turned to the window. The trees blurred past.
What else do you know about him?
Mike reached into the glove box, pulled out a thin folder. Inside, photos, letters, notes.
I kept track. After, I called your mom sometimes. She didn't want to talk, but she never told me to stop. I knew your birthdays, your school plays. I was there, just never close.
I stared at a picture of me, age 12, in a school uniform, hair in messy braids.
You were watching me?
I was protecting you, from a distance, the way he asked.
I shook my head.
That's not protection. That's hiding.
He didn't argue.
I know I messed this up,
He said.
but I didn't know how else to keep a promise.
The road curved. A wooden sign appeared through the fog. Miller Creek Cabin. He turned in. This is your place? I asked.
It was his. Before the war. Before anything. I bought it after he died. Couldn't let it rot.
The cabin was small, worn, but clean, porch light glowing faintly, smoke curling from the chimney. It smelled like cedar and thyme. I don't want to go inside, I said quietly.
You don't have to.
But I think I should. He nodded. I stepped up, hand on the doorknob. Inside, everything felt paused, like it had waited for this moment. On the mantel, a framed photo, my father in uniform, younger than I remembered, smiling, and next to it, a small wooden box. I opened it. Cassette tapes, each one labeled in pen. Haley, age 5, bedtime stories. Haley's laugh, letter 12. My voice broke. You saved these?
He recorded them, sent them to me. I couldn't throw them away.
I don't have a cassette player. He handed me a small old Walkman from the shelf, batteries inside. I placed the first tape. His voice filled my ears. Hey, Bug, it's almost midnight here. I can't sleep. I keep thinking about the way you wrinkled your nose when you were mad, just like your mom. I miss that. I miss everything. The room spun. I sat on the floor. Mike stood in the doorway, hands in pockets. I don't know if this is helping, I whispered. He nodded.
Sometimes healing sounds like breaking.
I played it again and again. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel angry. Just not alone. The floorboards groaned beneath my weight like they remembered him. I stepped into the cabin with the kind of caution you give haunted places. Not because you believe in ghosts, but because you believe in pain that doesn't leave. The air was still, tinged with the scent of old pine, smoke, and something deeply human. The kind of smell clothes hold after someone's gone. Mike didn't follow me in at first. He lingered on the porch like he wasn't sure if this was still his place to enter. I looked back at him. You coming? He exhaled, slow.
Only if you want me to.
I don't want to be alone. He stepped inside. The living room was simple. Worn armchair, a small wooden table, a shelf of dusty books. a fireplace that still radiated the ghost of warmth. I ran my fingers over the mantel, touching the photograph again. My father looked younger, softer. There was something in his eyes I didn't expect. Hope. He smiled like that? I asked.
All the time, especially when he talked about you.
I swallowed.
There's more, Mike said quietly.
What do you mean? He motioned to a cabinet under the stairs.
Go ahead.
I crouched and opened it. Inside, boxes, labeled with months, years, my name, my mom's, random scribbles in Sharpie that meant nothing until they did. I pulled one out. Inside, letters, photos, tapes, drawings. One, clearly mine, said "Daddy come back soon" in purple crayon. I covered my mouth. I thought he forgot about me, I whispered.
He never did, Mike said. He just didn't know how to come home whole.
I sat on the floor, the box open in my lap. I pulled out a tape labeled Letter 7, after the school play. Did he ever listen to these himself? Mike shook his head.
He didn't need to. He lived them.
I grabbed the Walkman again, popped the tape in. Bug, I saw the picture your mom sent of your costume. A lion, huh? You looked fierce and tiny. I wish I could have been there. Mike says I smiled like an idiot when I got the photo. Maybe I did. One day when this is all over, I'll come home and you can roar in person. We'll scare the neighbors. I laughed. Sharp, sudden, painful. He really talked like this? I asked.
Every time he got mail from you, or a drawing, or just a photo, he'd find me in whatever hole we were sleeping in and read it out loud like scripture.
I kept the headphones on. Let the tape finish. Mike sat in the chair, arms folded, eyes unreadable. Why did you keep this place? I asked finally. He paused.
Because I couldn't let it vanish.
You could have sold it.
Didn't want to. It was his. And part of him stayed here.
I nodded. I think part of him stayed with you, too. Mike looked down.
More than I deserved.
Later, we made tea in silence. The kettle squealed like it had something to say, but no words. I sipped slowly, perched on the edge of the counter. Did you ever write back? I asked.
To him?
Yeah, he nodded.
All the time. Never sent most of them.
Why?
Didn't want to interrupt the version of him that only existed in your letters. Yours made him feel alive. Mine reminded him he wasn't.
I stared at him. Do you still write? He shrugged.
Not on paper.
We went through 3 more tapes. One was him singing badly. Some made-up song about pancakes and dinosaurs. Another was a bedtime story he clearly improvised. The last one ended with, "Good night, Haley. I love you bigger than the sky." That broke me. I cried. And didn't care that Mike saw. He didn't come close, didn't say it's okay or you'll be fine. He just sat there, quiet, the way real people do when pain is too honest to fix. When it got dark, we lit the fireplace. He laid out a sleeping bag on the couch.
You can have the bed, he said.
It's your place.
It was his.
That settled it. As I stood to leave, I hesitated. Mike?
Yeah.
Why didn't you ever tell me who you were? He didn't answer right away. Then,
Because I was afraid you'd see me as a mistake.
I frowned. You weren't.
You say that now, but grief doesn't always need a villain. Sometimes it just assigns one.
I walked back to him, stood over his seat. You're not him, but you're the part that stayed, and that matters. He looked up. His eyes glistened.
I don't know how to be what he was.
You don't have to. And I meant it, because something had shifted. I wasn't just his daughter anymore. I was a girl learning to remember. And Mike? He was the one who waited. Just like this house. The 4th morning was quieter than the rest. The kind of quiet that feels earned, like grief had finally burned itself out, and all that remained was something fragile. Not peace exactly, but the space for it. I sat on the steps of the porch, a mug of weak coffee between my palms, watching mist drift across the grass. Somewhere beyond the trees, a bird was calling. Short bursts, then silence. It reminded me of the cassettes, of the way he used to say my name like it mattered. Mike sat beside me slowly, like his body needed permission from the day to start moving again. He didn't say anything. I broke the silence. Were you scared? He didn't look at me.
Of what?
That I'd hate you, he breathed in.
Every day.
I sipped, let that sit between us. I did, I admitted. Not you, but the version of you I made up. The one who let my dad die, the one who stayed quiet, the one who watched me grow up from a distance and never stepped in.
I earned that version.
Maybe, but I'm starting to think you paid for someone else's silence too. He finally looked at me. I didn't just promise him I'd check in. I promised him I'd keep you safe, that I'd love you. My heart stopped just for a second. Like a daughter? I asked. He looked down.
Number. Not at first, not even mostly. I didn't know what it was back then. It wasn't romantic, but it wasn't parental either. It was
He struggled for the word.
sacred.
I didn't move.
You were his world, he said. And after he died, I kept seeing him in you. And then you grew up, and you weren't a memory anymore. You were a person, loud and hurting and alive. And I didn't know where I fit.
I breathed slowly. You still don't, I said gently. But maybe that's the point. Maybe no one fits cleanly in someone else's grief. He laughed under his breath.
That's wiser than anything I've heard in years.
I shrugged. Guess I had a good teacher. We sat in the hush for a while longer.
I wrote you letters, he said finally. For years, never sent them.
Where are they? He hesitated.
In the glove box, all of them. Torn pages, backs of receipts, napkins. I never knew what to say or how to make it okay.
I want to read them. He tensed.
Some of them are messy.
So am I. He handed me the stack later that afternoon. Folded and faded. Some smelled like gasoline. One had a coffee stain in the shape of a crescent moon. I sat on the bed, legs crossed, and read them one by one.
Haley, you looked at me today and didn't recognize anything. That felt like a mercy. I think your father knew I'd screw this up. I saw your senior photo. You looked tired, like someone already let you down. I'm sorry that someone was me. I don't want to be forgiven. I want to deserve it. You laughed today. I hadn't heard it in years. It was thunder and wind, and I almost cried in the truck. You're more him than you'll ever know.
I folded the last one gently and held it to my chest. I forgive you, I said. He stood in the doorway, arms crossed, face unreadable.
I didn't ask.
I know, but you needed to hear it. He nodded, slowly. That night we sat by the fire, not talking much. He handed me a small box.
This is the last thing he gave me. Said to pass it on only if you were strong enough.
Inside was a flash drive and a note.
Haley, if she ever wants to know all of it.
I looked at Mike. You think I'm ready?
I think you were born ready. Just needed to stop running long enough to remember.
I held the drive in my hand, and for once I didn't feel afraid, because the worst was behind us. And what came next was finally ours to face. The next morning, I didn't wake to birds. I woke to silence so full it rang in my ears. Mike was gone, not in a panicked way. Just not there. His coat still hung on the peg, the old truck still parked outside, but a note sat on the counter written in blocky familiar pen.
I'll be at the tree. Take your time.
I didn't need to ask which one. First, I plugged in the flash drive. The cabin's old laptop wheezed like it didn't want to wake up either, but the files were there. Dozens. Some labeled Kandahar March, some just for Haley. Video clips, audio logs, letters, photos, one folder simply titled Truth. I opened the last one first. Inside a video. The camera shook a little. It was night, lit by a dim lantern or flashlight. My father's face filled the screen. He looked tired, weathered but steady. His voice when it came was low, steady, unafraid.
If anything happens to me, don't let her forget. Tell her she was the best thing I ever did. Tell her I wasn't always this man. That before the war, I laughed, I danced, I held her, and felt like the world couldn't touch me. Tell her that Mike, yeah, you, man, he was the only one I trusted to love her like I would. Maybe better. And Haley, if you see this, it means I didn't get back. I'm sorry, but I promise I never stopped trying to. Never stopped loving you.
He smiled, just slightly.
Be louder than I was, braver. And don't forget the stories. They're yours now.
The screen went dark. I pressed my forehead to the keyboard and let the tears come. No sobbing, just tears, like rain through a cracked roof. Inevitable, quiet, and too late to stop. I stayed like that a while. Then I packed the drive, the tapes, the letters, and walked to the tree. It wasn't hard to find. A wide sycamore at the edge of the creek, roots like fingers gripping the soil, and Mike, sitting on an old stump, a thermos beside him, looking like he'd been waiting his whole life to stop waiting. I sat beside him. For a long time we didn't talk. Then I said, I saw him, heard him. He nodded.
I know.
He was scared too.
He just didn't show it.
I think he did. Only to you. That made him close his eyes, like remembering hurt, but it was finally allowed to. I'm not mad at you anymore, I said.
Good.
I'm grateful. He blinked at me.
You shouldn't be.
I am. Silence. He said you were the only person he trusted to love me better than he could. Mike looked down.
I tried.
You did more than that. I handed him the drive. You should watch it too.
I'm afraid to.
I was too. We sat there until the sun moved. I rested my head on his shoulder. He didn't move away. Later, we walked back to the cabin, packed up the last of the boxes. I was leaving for the city, for school, for a life I'd put on pause for too long. As I stood at the door, suitcase in hand, Mike said,
Do you want me to come with you?
I looked at him. No, I said. I think I need to go alone. He nodded. But I want you to be there when I come back. His smile broke wide.
I'll be here. Porch light on.
I walked down the steps, stopped halfway, turned. I love you, I said. Not like a daughter, not like a friend. Just honest, and he didn't answer with words. He just placed a hand to his heart. And that was more than enough.